A lot is happening within ZANU PF, and guess what? It has been known that there are two court applications that have been brought by individuals fronting the interest of Emerson Tambutso Mnangagwa. And at the center of that is none other than Professor Jonathan Moyo. And one of the lawyers that has been actually up in arms to defend the Constitution, it has been none other than Thabani Mpofu. And guess what? Because of the missiles that were thrown by Thabani Mpofu, left, right, and center, especially to those who are seemingly putting themselves to be used by the regime, what has actually been the result is that those who sent them, they are coming out to defend them. And Professor Jonathan Moyo has written a long essay. Hey guys, I'll try to read it. It's a very long essay. Very, very long. Let me try. I'll read it very fast when I get tired. Maybe most probably we'll continue it tomorrow. Greetings and welcome to your lovely channel, the Hlonipani Global News. If you're watching us for the very first time, please do remember to press the red or black subscribe button so that next time when we film live, you become the very first one to watch us. So let me read this. It says the topic, unprofessional and unethical, Thabani Mpofu's assault on Fuzwayo, Ipechu, and their lawyer, Sitolda. It says unprovoked flippancy and insult. That's Professor Jonathan Moyo. Advocate Thabani Mpofu's ex-post, and he quotes it, which outrageously likens Mbuso Fuzwayo, Ipechu Ligazulu, and their lawyer Ngobani Tole to dogs, while portraying this writer as their owner, demands a sharp and resolute response. This dehumanizing rhetoric, laced with contempt and evocative of the stigmatizing cockroach type of imagery, similar to the kind used during the Rwandan genocide, this time around not choosing the Kukuraunde genocide, cannot go unchallenged. It reveals a glaring failure in professional and ethical conduct from self-proclaimed defender of the Constitution and everything right, civil, and sacred. Rogue preference for political browse over the law. Mpofu, who styles himself as a guardian of justice, has shockingly urged Zimbabweans to bypass the courts in response to ZANU-PF's proposed extension of the presidential term of office to 2030, dismissing it as a mere political issue and a dirty dog fight in his 31 October 2025 ex-post. His position is not just misguided, it represents a brazen dereliction of his duties as a lawyer and officer of the court, undermining the rule of law he sought to protect. He actually caught the statement. When a concerned ex-user raised two incisive questions, at what point then would it be strategic or even prudent to engage, as you suggest? And when the political class appears complicit across the aisle, how do citizens and civil society assert agency without reinforcing the same system they seek to question? Mpofu's response was chilling, poignant observations. These questions must be publicly asked but never answered. Why never answered? You know, Professor Jonathan Moyo is so it's very, very funny to tell you. Now, what is making noise about is that Kubani Moyo and Mbuso Fuzwa have been portrayed as dogs of Professor Jonathan Moyo. I mean, this was a figurative expression, and he took it so literal. I mean, it was a figurative. I studied literature. I understand that, and I'm sure Professor Jonathan Moyo understands that. But obviously, he has found something to capitalize with minor. That is how Professor Jonathan Moyo sometimes can be very petty. Why responding from Buso Fuzwa? Why then also having the guts to speak about those who wants to take Emerson Dabutso Mnangagwa to court? In fact, he's supposed to be opposing Mbuso Fuzwayo under normal circumstances, but the very mere fact that he's defending Mbuso Fuzwayo, because Mbuso Fuzwayo is seemingly on the opposite side of Jonathan Moyo. Okay, let's put it that way. Now, if he is, because he is petitioning the Constitutional Court opposing 2030, then how come, Professor Jonathan Moyo comes to the aid of the very person who is seemingly playing for the other team? These guys think people are so fools. People can see when they are actually undermined, when their intelligence is actually attacked. So let me continue reading. It's a long essay, as I told you. At its heart, the ZANU PF 2030 proposal is a technical, legal, and constitutional matter rooted in Section 95 2B of the Constitution of Zimbabwe 2013, which sets the presidential term of office at 5 years, aligned with Parliament's lifespan. Extending it depends precise legal clarification on whether this qualifies as a term limit provision under Section 3281, which references the two-term caps in Section 91.2. If not, a two-thirds majority parliamentary vote under Section 3285 may suffice. If so, Section 3287 requires two national referendum. Now is back to explaining what has been publicly disputed. This is no partisan skirmish in the political gutter. It is a technical constitutional question demanding judiciary scrutiny to protect the rule of law from political whims, charlatans, and the merchants of violence. For Mpofu, an advocate of Zimbabwe's Superior Court, to deride litigation as soiling the halls of justice with crabby hands is hypocritical, irresponsible, and dangerous. It is oxymoronic for a practicing senior lawyer who claims to be neither a politician nor an activist to behave like an overgrown child throwing tantrums, insisting irrationally that a legal matter be resolved through street prowls rather than the courts. Did he say that? Lawyers exist to guide disputes towards legal remedies, not consign them to chaotic streets. By reframing the issues as purely political and demanding a political solution, Mr. Mpofu invites anarchy, erodes institutional trust, and echoes the assaults on civil rights he pretends to condemn. His oath as an officer of the court obligates him to champion legality, not evade it, lest he abets the unraveling of the Constitution. Zimbabwe deserves better from its legal stewards, not calls to sidestep justice, but an unwavering defense of it. Mpofu's advocacy for a strict prowl does not merely falter, it betrays the Constitution, the benchmark, the bar, and the people. By the way, it is constitutional for people to go to the streets and to protest. There is absolutely nothing that says it is unconstitutional. So Professor Jonathan Moyo decides to lie. And in this attempt to influence also, most probably they have discussed this. I have said it, that if you see ZANU PF coming after Job Sikala in South Africa, the very same ZANU PF may be coming after individuals like us, may be coming after individuals like Tendai Biti, may be coming after individuals, so many who are opposed to 2030 nonsense. So, I mean, what Professor is really angry at Thabani Mpofu. The tone is full of anger. While he's attempting to put Thabani Mpofu in order, he is actually committing also serious serious offenses. So this is typical of Professor Jonathan Moyo. That is the Jonathan Moyo we know. Then he says, Zvikauya tuka, if they bring it, insult them. In response to obey Shaba's prudent advice to fellow lawyers, to lawyers defending the Constitution, don't fall to ZANU-PF's intelligence gathering operation disguised as a debate. Resist the urge to fully engage. Exercise strategic silence and keep your best argument private. Save it for the court. Don't give them a free legal brief. Mpofu's reply was telling. Thank you, Shaba. Zvikauya tuka vanhu vepi, translating to, if they bring it, insult them. Where are the people? And now he goes on to say, this retort exposes Mpofu's abandonment of rationality, fair play, and the legal profession's mandate to uphold the rule of law. As a senior officer of the court, he should exalt the Constitution as the supreme arbiter of power. Instead, he rejects Shaba's call for strategic restraint and courtroom resolve, favoring crude insults over principled adjudication. By downgrading a core constitutional issue anchored in Section 95 2B and 228 to a partisan fray, Mpofu undermines the justice system he is sought to safeguard, urging strict confrontations over judiciary precision not only invites chaos but forsakes these ethical duties, treating the gavel for the mob's roar and leaving Zimbabwe's national interest compromised. Mpofu's reckless stance distilled from his ex-post on 4 toxic pillars. Treat the term extension as a mere political issue. Dirty dogfight. Insult anyone who raises it. Don't take it to court. Smear those who go to court and the judges who hear it. Vicious political assault on Ibeshu Ligazulu and their lawyer. It's a long. Mpofu, sought to uphold justice, has descended into unprofessional depths with his political assault on Mbuso Fuzwayo, Ibeshu Ligazulu, and their lawyer Ngobani Sithole. In a post rife with unsubstantiated insinuation of hatred, Mpofu alleges a conspiracy of fraudulently recruiting Ndebeles to spearhead a false challenge to the 2030 agenda, calling it a cruel law linked to the Chabangu scheme and the work of charlatans. This transcends commentary. It is a smear that stifles freedom of speech, association, and conscience, maligns a professional colleague, and erodes the legal profession's ethical foundation. The Law Society of Zimbabwe's court demands civility, respect, and condone. Aibo. Was he in the court or on the X space, Jonathan Moyo? Even in disagreement, while avoiding prejudice to justice or intimidation of litigants, Mpofu violates this by labeling Sithole as Chabangu's lawyer. Since when are lawyers defined by one client? Mpofu himself resents being called Chamisa's lawyer, yet he denies others the same professional courtesy. What's good for the goose is evidently not for the gander. Labeling Sithole this way distorts this decade-long human rights work for Ibeshu Ligazulu, including interdicting the Zimbabwe Republic Police from blocking Kukuraunde commemorations in 2016, challenging illegal Kukuraunde repairs in 2021, and representing Tawanda Mucheiwa. That year, Mpofu's attacks infringe on attorney-client privilege. and undermine the constitutional right to legal representation of choice under Section 71 of the Constitution, potentially constituting harassment and compromising legal integrity. Let me comment after reading all this long thing. Scandalizing the judiciary. As an esteemed advocate, Mpofu is bound to preserve the judiciary's sanctity with ethical rigor, yet his ex post betrays his duty. Delving into bizarre daydreams is also insulting. That have been weaponized by social media outlets and influencers to scandalize the judiciary. The very institution he vows to defend, by framing the presidential term extension a constitutional crux under Section 95 2B as a political issue, a dirty dogfight, he shirks his role, steering the public towards violent clashes instead of judiciary paths. His shameless call to insult 2030 supporters, combined with his cryptic urgings to pose questions publicly but never answered, borders on incitement, fraying faith in legal mechanisms, and inviting vigilante disorder. Compounding this are inflammatory echoes from Teddy Hope. Oh, he's on Opel and News Hawks Live, done under the guise of investigative journalism to imply baseless claims with zero evidence. Mpofu's 5 November 2025 bizarre daydream post filled with veiled accusations of sham filings, imaginary bribes, and orchestration ignites this fire. Swiftly reposted with apparent approval by Teddy Hope and echoed in Newshawk's Lives. 6 November 2025 reports, forging a malicious nexus. Here is Teddy Hope's astonishing 4 November 2025 claim about his alleged sources and the implication of Fuzwayo and Legitimizing Zulu's constitutional court application, reproduced in full for its scandalous weight. I've been made aware by judicial sources of allegations that 2 Bulawayo-based applicants have been identified to file a constitutional application intended to be dismissed in order to advance the 2030 agenda. They are Mbuso Fuzwayo as the first applicant and Legitimizing Zulu as the second applicant. My judicial sources said that the application was prepared by a young advocate and that the advocate is connected to one Itai Nduzo. Itai Nduzo is the current Minister of State for Provincial Affairs and Devolution for Mashonaland East and a ZANU PF member for Parliament. The same province where President Mnangagwa's 2030 cheerleader Daniel Gawe is the ZANU PF chairman. The basis of this application is to go to court and argue that 2030 is illegal. However, the real intention is to have the court agree with that position, but rather have the court dismiss the application. Once the court dismisses it, that dismissal becomes a legal precedent establishing that 2030 can lawfully go ahead. In other words, they are deliberately applying for something opposite to what they truly want in order to create a judicial record supporting their political agenda. To see the malicious nexus compared with the News Hawks Live claims on the same matter, a major political scandal with potential far-reaching consequences is brewing in local Zimbabwean politics amid revelations that ZANU-PF senior officials and some judges are colluding to facilitate President Emmerson Mnangagwa's term unlawful extension amid a growing threat to the country's constitutional order and internal stability. The news hawk has spoken to many political and judicial sources who confirm ZANU-PF leaders, including ministers, political strategists, and legal bureaucrats, are fast moving behind the scenes to fast track the treacherous deal. Now it goes on to say, revealingly, both Teddy Hope and the News Hawk separately claimed their inflammatory coverage was leaked by judiciary sources, offering no evidence whatsoever. The term judiciary is inseparable from judiciary. Judicial is inseparable from judiciary. It denotes the system of courts and judges. Thus, the public is asked to believe court judges and court officials leaked an unfinalized and unfiled application which was not before them. These claims are blatant and harmful fabrications. The true source was, of course, Mpofu himself, with legally left to imagination, fortuitously, inadvertently exposed this by extensively quoting Mpofu's bizarre daydream in a telling manner, even for the uninitiated. A senior lawyer said, "This is a sinister political plot. We can't have politicians and judges corruptly colluding to undermine the Constitution for short-term individual political and monetary benefits. It's an attack on the Constitution, rule of law, and democracy. It's treacherous." There is no need for a Tsikamtanda or rocket scientist to unravel the identity of the senior lawyer. Newswalk's live giveaway was immediate and complete. Prominent lawyer Advocate Thabani Mpofu has joined the fray. He posted on Twitter X, "I took a power nap this afternoon and had a bizarre dream. In it, more precision engineering tried to file a flawed application in the Constitutional Court that was rejected on technical grounds. At the same time, a good friend in the East African city of Dodoma was pushing people to find an applicant to bring a case in the chief's court. Amid loud rumors that he'd been paid 3 million, afternoon naps really do produce the strangest dreams. Crazy, crazy stuff." Mpofu appeared to insinuate that an application circulating on social media by More Precision Muzati is part of political subterfuge. The draft application seeks to challenge Mnangako's 2030 bid on the surface of it, but it is seen as part of a deceptive proxy maneuver to get the Concord dismissed to help ZANU-PF in the process. It was not clear whom Mpofu was referring to when he said his good friend in Dodoma, Tanzania's administrative capital, was behind the maneuvers. It is incredulous that an investigative outlet like Newswalk's Live would collude with an award-winning journalist, Steady Hope, to fabricate non-existent judicial resources lying on Mpofu's bizarre daydream to bolster self-evident lies. This is scandalous and potentially criminal. Given the vilification of judges, it would be a dereliction for the Judicial Service Commission to ignore this opprobrium. These fabrications erode trust, portraying the bench as political puppets and breeding contempt. This echo chamber, where Mpofu's bizarre hints fuel misinformation, amounts to judicial scandalization. By igniting or endorsing it, Mpofu abets the vilification of judges as corrupt without offering even a shred of evidence, all while decrying court involvement. His hypocrisy mocks his oath. He smears good faith litigants as proxies and implies judicial bias. Does Jonathan hear himself? But from this, ladies and gentlemen, he is simply instructing Emerson Tambutso Mnangagwa to go after Advocate Thabani Mpofu. I hope he is still safe at the moment, because this essay may be coordinated with what the state institutions intends to do to Advocate Thabani Mpofu. Even as New Walks Live concedes Fuzwayo and Ipechulika Zulu's application is genuine, this threatens judiciary concedes I mean, consists and if Zulu's application is genuine, or maybe he was trying to say ingenuine, this threatens judiciary independence, deters genuine justice seekers, invite extra-legal backlash. In a nation with fragile institutions such as Zimbabwe, Mpofu's recklessness favors spectacles over restraint, tarnishing the judiciary. He must protect trust. True officers of the court elevate the law. They do not drag it through the mud of unproven slander. Okay, I'm just reading the nonsense written by Jonathan Moyo. Gaslighting Matepelele and Aiman Suga. Mpofu's 5th November 25 claim that ZANU PF is fraudulently recruiting Ndebeles for an alleged sham court challenge exemplifies tribal gaslighting. He's also in Ndebele nje Mpofu. He's also in Ndebele. Weaponizing ethnicity to discredit a valid constitutional bid while reopening historical wounds. How? No historical wounds that were opened. In this unsubstantiated tirade, he asserts, a particularly disturbing aspect of the Fuzwayo and Zulu saga is the deliberate attempt to put an entire ethnic group in the line of fire, fraudulently recruiting Ndebeles who have real historical grievances with it to front a false challenge to the 2030 agenda is a cruel law. He links it to Shabangu scheme, branding it charlatanry. By depicting Matepelele and activist Fuzwayo and Ipechu, respected Ndebeles with authentic grievances as pawns in an ethnic conspiracy, Mpofu exploits the region's history and trauma of marginalization and Kukuraunde atrocities finally he mentions Kukuraunde, for corrupt ends without evidence. He forget to say Mnangagwa called the people of Matepelele and cockroaches. Cast an entire ethnic community as dupes or sellouts, fanning divisions and perpetuating stereotypes of Ndebele manipulability or disloyalty. This is not advocacy, but demagoguery from a senior practicing lawyer obligated to professionalism and ethics, not exposing litigants and their counsel to ridicule, demonization, stigmatization, and harm, amplified by outlets like Nehanda Radio. His baseless, fraudulent Ndebele recruitment allegations reduce the constitutional court application to tribal intrigue, implying Matepelele and residents as ZANU-PF marionettes. Why deem Ipechuliga Zulu's ties suspects? It is a ploy, invoke ethnic pain to delegitimize without proof. This is unacceptable and objectionable. The hypocrisy bends. Mpofu, who calls the extension political, now vilifies those seeking judiciary clarity on a constitutional question. To fulfill his own warped political prophecy, as an officer of the court, his duty is to uphold law, not fracture society with tribal jabs and fabrications that mimic the authoritarianism he claims to oppose. Quite better than that, it's called what? That Dudula Metem. Poignantly, this betrays Kukuraunde victims or survivors who deserves justice, not tokenization in senseless feuds. Mpofu's words expose not charlatans, but his willingness to wield historical agony of the people of Matepelele as a political weapon. You see, now what he attempts to correct, he is doing it worse. Pretending to have concern about Kukuraunde, whilst he joined the very same party that implemented Kukuraunde and committed more atrocities in Matepelele. Professor Jonathan Moyo is also a Kukuraundist. Advocate Mpofu's rank hypocrisy. In glaring hypocrisy, Mpofu laid advocate in the 2017 High Court case, and he quoted HC 10820/17, that mutilated the constitution by sanctioning the military coup, now denounces Fuzwayo and Ipechu's 2025 bid via Sitole law chambers as a sham subversion. That secretive 2017 case yielded a controversial consent order, deeming the Zimbabwe Defense Forces intervention constitutionally permissible under Section 212 of the Constitution, effectively blessing a coup. It twisted the Constitution to legitimize extra-legal power grab, empowering unelected forces to arrest, executive lapses, criticize for eviscerating constitutional democracy and entrenching military influence. Contrast with Fuzwayo and Ipechu application, which probes Section 95(2)(b) as a potential term limit provision under Section 3281, possibly requiring a referendum per Section 3287. It upholds safeguards against overreach, using courts of law as intended, not for insults, brawls, and smears. Mpofu's 2017 collusion, shielded from scrutiny, disqualifies him from assailing judiciary approaches. Where his case erodes integrity for the transfer of political power, this one preserves it. His attacks, bolstered by Teddy Hope and Newswalk's Live, unproven collusion claims reveal vendettas over law. If 2017 mutilated the Constitution, Mpofu's current posture desecrates it anew. Okay, let me continue. We are at conclusion. I'm almost tired. I wonder, listening to this. Conclusion: a betrayal cloaked in advocacy. In Zimbabwe's shadowed political corridors, where the Constitution tangles by threads of fragile hope, Thabani Mpofu's inflammatory words emerge not as beacons of justice, but as daggers aimed at its heart. Sworn to defend the law's sanctity, he unleashes invectives, tribal barbs, and judicial scorn, transforming his respectable advocate's robe into a cloak for hypocrisy and division. By urging insults over adjudication, brawls over courts, and innuendo over evidence, Mpofu does not safeguard the republic. He unctions its soul, leaving historical wounds in Matabeleland, festering, and the judiciary echoing distrust. Yet in this betrayal rings a clarion call. Zimbabwe's true guardians must rise, not with mob glamour, but with justice unyielding shield, forging a nation where law triumphs over charlatans. The malicious targeting of Mbuso Fuzwayo and Ipechu is particularly troubling. No individual organization has sustained focus on resolving Kukuraunde atrocities like they have. One need not endorse their application to respect their indefatigable service to community and country. This explains the outrage across Matabeleland over their vilification. For the record, Fuzwayo and Ipechu have been targeted by counter-revolutionary Bambazonke elements tied to Harare for two reasons. Firstly, first mover jealousies. Ipechu outpaced Harare's usual suspects, who cling to warped notion that Harare is Zimbabwe and Zimbabwe is Harare, by filing a solid constitutional court application. Nothing in it invites dismissal on technicalities. Claims otherwise are baseless. In this vein, assertion by figures like Kika Musa Kika, that the application is premature, apolitical, not legal. Section 85(1)(a) of the Constitution states any person acting in their own interest is entitled to approach a court alleging that a fundamental right or freedom enshrined in this chapter, the Declaration of Rights, is being or is likely to be infringed. The Constitution does not require infringement before action. The idea that one must suffer harm before seeking protection has no constitutional basis. One can only wonder where this nonsense that Fuzoy and Ipechu's application is premature is coming from. Who in Harare presumes to detect which court applications, on what issues, and when Mpofu seeks a dangerous precedent that right-thinking, law-abiding people must resist. Second, across Matebele and Ipechu is seen as maliciously targeted by force of its unparalleled work for needy persons and communities in the region and the Midlands, especially on Kukuraunde. The flippancy and hatred in this targeting have been extreme and shameful. Well, let me comment just for a few minutes because this has been the longest essay ever to comment on. Now, it is suspicious why already Professor Jonathan Moyo will speak on Ipechu Ligazulu. Ipechu Ligazulu, as an advocacy organization, should actually speak for itself, put the people into confidence, explain themselves. And if they are actually misjudged, time will tell. Now, it is very suspicious that the court application which opposes the PPI document that has been actually written by individuals like Professor Jonathan Moyo, Professor Jonathan Moyo, who has actually targeted everyone who opposed the PPI, is seemingly sympathetic to Ipechu Ligazulu on the basis that Thabani Mpofu reduced this fight into tribal fight, I think all of them, Thabani Mpofu and Professor Jonathan Moyo, you should never by any means try to politically weaponize Kukuraunde genocide. It's a shame to do so. It's a real pain for the people of Matebele, and it will live forever. It left a huge scar and it remains unresolved. So people should not politicize Kukuraunde genocide. I think I have to be emphatic. Whoever, try to stay out of Kukuraunde. Stay out of Kukuraunde. You can play your politics, we will accept it, but not with Kukuraunde genocide. Just stay out of it. All of you. Equally so, Jonathan Moyo had to write a lengthy essay, also trying to win this debate, putting Kukuraunde genocide. Now we are looking, I have said Ipechu Ligazulu rather than saying, that's why I had to record a video to people who are now saying, people of Matebele, come on, get a life. So if an organization in Mashonaland does something, does it mean it has done it on behalf of the people of Mashonaland? That is nonsensical. People should stop that. If I do something, I'm from Matebele, accusations should come to me. Don't say, why Ndebeles? Sengezo Chabang is not Ndebeles. Mbuso Fuzoyo is not Ndebeles. Ipechu Ligazulu is not, it's just an organization. Supported maybe by in Matebele less than 0.00000000001%. Now, you cannot then say, it's like saying ZANU-PF is a Mashonaland party. ZANU-PF is a political party with its members. It is not actually inclusive of the rest of Mashonaland. And I think I addressed this. I did a separate video where I talked about that, taking into consideration unresolved issues, particularly in Matebele. People should desist especially to play around the people. Leave the people of Matabeleland alone. Let's sort this mess that is here at the moment. Now, it's suspicious, I've already said, that Professor Jonathan Moyo would then appear to be defending Mbuso Fuzoy, the very same Mbuso Fuzoy who is opposing him, opposing his ideas in a court of law. Now, his defense shows that, and his also sympathy toward, I don't think it stems from the fact that Thabani Mpofu used Kukuraunde and had to echo some stereotypes around the people of Matabeleland. I don't think it stems from that point. So, Professor Jonathan Moyo, the mere fact that you defend someone who is playing for the other team, who is seemingly playing for the other team, accused by players in the other team, that no, this player, the way he is actually playing this football, he appears to be going in front to score, but rather he will actually kick the ball back to his own goal because he has been planted by the other side. And then Professor Jonathan Moyo come to the defense of this player who is playing for the opponent team. So that on its own, Professor, it makes you to be very suspicious. You are making things to be worse. Well, on the issue of stereotypical phrases that were used against the people of Matabeleland, you have a point there. I think all, but on the issue of coming with to actually protect 2030, you have no point. And also on the issue of equally using Matabeleland to push your nefarious agenda, also you have lost the plot. Thank you very much for watching us. If you are watching us for the very first time, please do remember to press the red or black subscribe button. Good